Well, this was a nice surprise. BMW have just dropped the F450 GS on us. We saw the concept last year, but we had oh so many questions unanswered. Like, how heavy was it going to be? How off-road capable? Are they going to water it down until the production version is a pale shadow of the concept? Well, we can answer all those questions right now. Okay, let's dive into the specs of the F450 GS, then we'll go through the variants, and then we'll talk about what I think of the bike, how off-road capable it is, and who exactly these bikes are aimed at. So we've got a liquid-cooled EFI 420cc parallel twin making 48 horsepower at 8,750 RPM and 43.5 Newton meters of torque at 6,750 RPM. I will put a note in there. I really hope that a lot of that torque is available quite low in the rev range, as I love my torquey bikes, particularly for off-road riding. The other interesting thing about this engine that I want to point out is that it's got a 135-degree crankshaft offset. So this is a staggered rhythm. It's not a 360 or 180-degree firing order, which is the traditional order, or even the 270 or 280 if you're a KTM rider firing order that has become very common in parallel twin. The reasoning behind why you would choose a 135-degree firing order over the 270-degree firing order, BMW are arguing that this gives it the smoothness of the 180-degree firing order, but gives you the torque of the 270-degree firing order. So if you want to think about it this way, they've kind of combined a Honda NX500 firing order with the firing order of the CFMoto 450 MT to try and get the best of both worlds. So great sound, great torque, yet smooth like the Honda. I really want to find out for myself whether that's been accomplished or not. Suspension does change between models, but what is the same is that it's 43mm KYB front forks and KYB monoshock at the rear. All models get 180mm of travel front and rear as well. And that translates to 7.1 inches of travel. The differentiation comes between the GS Basic model and the exclusive model and the Sport and the Trophy. So the Sport and the Trophy model get sport suspension. So what does that give you? Well, it gives you rebound and compression damping adjustability front and rear. And I think that's fantastic to see, especially at this end of the market, and especially if you're going to be competitive with bikes like the CFMoto 450 MT and the KTM 390 Adventure R, which both have a decent amount of adjustability in them as well, particularly the CFMoto, which has also got KYB adjustable suspension. The other big headlining specs, one that jumped out at me, is the wet weight of this bike. 178 kilos fully fueled, ready to go. So that's roughly 393 pounds. That really is quite astonishing. I thought it would be far closer to the 450 MT and the Himalayan 450. So very impressed by that. Of course, I think one of the sneaky sacrifices of that is the other spec that jumped out at me, and that's the petrol tank capacity, which is about 13.5 litres. And BMW are claiming that from that tank you'll get roughly 350 kilometres. Braking's done by a pretty industry standard at the moment. Single front disc, 310mm with a single 4-piston caliper, and a 240mm rear disc with a 1-piston caliper. The base models of this get the cast alloy wheels. They're still 1917 wheel setup, but cast alloy. Of course, BMW have thrown the kitchen sink at this thing, at least at this end of the market, with all of the riding modes. You do get rain, road, and enduro as standard modes across all of the models. But the GS Trophy Edition also gets Enduro Pro mode, which disables the rear ABS, which I think is very important for anyone going into the dirt in a proper way. The other interesting thing on the Trophy model is an easy ride clutch system, as BMW are calling it. Basically BMW's version of Honda's e-clutch, where you can basically ride without a clutch, and maybe even a great choice if you're learning to ride off-road, taking away having to worry about stalling it. And yes, if you're saying, what about engine braking, particularly on downhill sections? Well, you can use the clutch and disengage the system if you choose, but also BMW are saying they have this smart system where it really only catches at the very end right before stalling would occur, so that engine braking is maintained for all riding scenarios. Is that apparently we're getting standard heated grips, which I think at this end of the market brilliant move. So I think those are really the specifications that matter the most. The electronics, to me, I'm not too fussed. I'm not an electronics guy. I never get excited about, oh, they've added a new whatever it's called package to turn off this or tailor that. I do not care. If I'm being honest, all I need on this kind of bike is, can I turn the ABS and traction control off? If the answer is yes, I'm happy. Start it up. BMW are giving us 4 model variants. Of course, some of those variants will be coming to different countries. It's not really set in stone yet, but the 4 variants go like this. We've got the base model, then we've got the exclusive model, which is the base model, but with some crash protection on it. Then you can upgrade to the sport model, which is the same as the base, but with the crash protection of the exclusive, plus the sport suspension, which gives you adjustability at the front and rear with compression and rebound damping. And then at the top of the line, you've got the Mac Daddy Trophy Edition, which gets everything that the Sport has, but more importantly, it gets that tricolor look with the gold handlebars, that really nice look that we've seen plastered all over the media, as well as spoke tubeless wheels, which are going to be pretty much everyone's favorite if you're into going into the dirt properly. So that top model I think is going to be the one to have. It also gets the E-clutch as well, which is an added nicety. Plus it gets Enduro Pro mode, which allows you to switch off the rear ABS, which is super important for proper off-road riding. I do have a bit of a gripe with the model variants that they've chosen here. It seems silly to me that the top of the line model still has a 1917 wheel combo and 180mm of travel. I really feel like they could have done away with one of the base models and added a model above the Trophy Edition called the Enduro model with a little more travel and a 21-inch front wheel. I think that would have just been amazing. Of course, I'm talking about a bike that would be perfect for me, but that's what I want to see from BMW. I want to see an Enduro model of this. I think the Trophy model is a great step forward and will be perfect in our market, but I'd love to see an Enduro model in the future. And that kind of leads us into who are these bikes for and who and where do they fit in the small displacement market. So I kind of think of the small displacement market like this. At one end of the spectrum, you've got the dedicated adventure tourer. That is the Honda NX500, a fantastic value-orientated adventure tourer. Absolutely love them. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the KTM 390 Adventure R and the 300 Rally from Honda. They kind of represent the most off-road capable small adventure bikes you can currently get on the market. The BMW, where does it sit in this lineup? Well, the base models sit pretty much right alongside the Honda NX500. But that Trophy Edition, I think, has done a really nice job at slitting in smack bang in the middle between the two extremes of the spectrum. It kind of fits between the KLE 500 and it's not quite as capable as, say, the Himalayan 450 or the CF-Moto 450 MT. So BMW have obviously done their homework and identified there's no middle ground on the market. Now we'll have a middle ground, but not only that, this is clearly the premium model in the small adventure bike market. That's something we haven't seen done yet. Those road-based models make a lot of sense. They'd be great adventure tourers with the cast wheels, 1917 wheel setup, all the bells and whistles of the big boys, although it does look like these aren't getting cruise control, but let's keep our fingers crossed. But you got the heated grips, you got all the BMW niceties, so that could be really appealing. But then if you wanted something lighter than the Himalayan 450, but you don't really want to go for the adventure toury kind of thing, you want some proper off-road capability, and you love the look of that BMW, the flash, the premium vibes that you get, the 450 Trophy is looking like a really interesting package. So the first thing is I've got to call out this bullshit CGI thing that they've been doing. I thought it was just a one-off when they did the R12 GS with a slash in the middle of it, the recent Airhead adventure bike, where it was basically all CGI for the release of the bike. We got to see no real footage of it being ridden properly off-road. I understand the temptation from the manufacturer. It's so much cheaper to do that than to go and pay a professional rider and a film crew to go and film the bike doing what we want to see it doing. But it really is a disservice to us because one, it shows you really can't be bothered 2, that you don't want to invest in showcasing the bike in a proper and premium way. And 3, it doesn't give us a chance to see how the bike actually handles in the terrain that we want to ride it in. Credit to Kawasaki, even though that bike isn't really made for proper off-road riding, we got to see its limitations in the showcase off-road when Chris from Bike World rode it off-road, and we could see how that suspension bottomed out. Whether the Kawasaki wanted us to see that or not, it really showcased, allows us to reconcile with what this bike will be capable of before we go and put our money down on it. And I think that is really important, and it really frustrates me that a huge company like BMW are not bothered in investing in riding this bike properly off-road to showcase the bike. Now, it could be the case that it's just not ready, but that leads me into the next thing. Why are they showcasing this at ICMA 2025 when they've stated that the release in the US is at the end of 2026, possibly 2027? What are we doing here? You had the concept last year, you're showcasing it production ready this year, but it's all CGI, and it won't be ready until the end of next year, possibly 2027. Why not just wait and showcase it at ICMA 2026? That would make a whole lot of sense. I'm sounding like a grumpy old man, and I am moving in that direction, but I miss the days when a manufacturer would show the bike at ICMA at the end of the year, ready to rock, and by the end of the year, you could put down your pre-order, and by Q1 of the next year, your bike would arrive. I miss those days. What happened to them? So that really frustrates me. I do get, in this age of marketing and being a YouTuber and constantly keeping people's attention, that it is a good idea to keep people invested. But showcasing the bike as production ready, and we've still got 12 months, maybe more, to wait. I mean, what are we doing here, guys? It's a little bit frustrating. I would have also loved to have seen cruise control, as I think this would have really unlocked this bike, made those longer rides that you kind of don't want to do on smaller adventure bikes a little more bearable. And the last little quip I would like to say is I love the weight at 178 kilos, but at that weight, I think you could easily justify adding a couple of kilos in petrol tank capacity, so 2 liters or so of fuel more. That would bring it to 180 kilos and just give it that range that we really want, that just nudging on the 400 kilometer mark. But overall, I'm really excited for this bike. I think they've done a really good job from what I can see. Of course, I need to ride it myself, see what others think of it too. But early days, it's looking very positive, and I'm very excited for where this adventure bike segment is going for the small displacement side of things, because we've really got such a great range of bikes to choose from. To having all of these options now, it is super exciting. So I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this business. And as always, guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up.